Whenever we've got the green light, we can go ahead and commence.
Okay, I started recording.
All right, we are on the record. Welcome everyone to the meeting of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee. Officially calling the meeting to order at 6:31 p.m. And as per our custom, the first item on the agenda is the open forum. I do love the idea of just giving everyone a few minutes to shout out what's on their minds before we plow through the agenda. So anyone and everyone, even members of the public who are on, just jump in and say what you have to say. And per our convention, you can just use the raise hand feature on the computer, and I will see a hand up and be able to call you out if you have something you'd like to say. Okay. All right, Jonathan, I see your hand.
I don't know if that was.
Or is that no? That's.
I think that was
that's
the wrong
clapping
thing.
that I see.
For some reason, can't find the raised hand. I don't know. I was just noticing that like we have a very diverse, interesting group of people here, and it might be nice to include some way of getting to know each other more as part of our, meetings. Maybe that means, we take a couple minutes at the beginning of meetings in the future and put the spotlight on someone and they can share a little bit about who they are and their experiences. I don't know if this is the place for that, but I'm just trying to think of ways to continue to develop our relationships as a team, as a committee.
Yeah, I love that idea. I think we did it very briefly at the beginning of our first meeting, and then we've kind of moved on. But having a spotlight on folks so that we can, get it done. Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking for the hand raising feature as well. I don't know why I'm not seeing it like I usually do. Hi, Ming, I see your hand. I guess we'll do it the old fashioned. I see your hand on the screen, feature. Sir. So we'll just raise our actual hands. How about that? Old technology. Hi, Ming, go ahead, sir. I think you're still muted.
So, I thought you just want to see people raising hands, not actually speaking, right? I mean, I couldn't stop talking if I want me to start. So for me, I can start. I mean, I like Jonathan's idea. My name is Henning, so many people already know. So I'm currently an engineer at one medical company. So they're very busy for the last 1 year. And how do I say that? So on the side, I kind of help out. There's Chinese language schools. That's where I learned so many families and the kids. The kids are wonderful, and that's why I have interest in this area to volunteer and try to help out any way I could. So that's pretty much for me. Anyone have any questions?
You just had the, oh, sorry, go for it, Maida.
Go ahead, Maida.
Jonathan, you can go first.
I was just going to ask about the Chinese New Year. So you said you were, making different meals. What other ways are you celebrating the Chinese New Year?
Yes. Yep. So pretty much that's to me is all my growing up is just a feeding festival, just all the food and everything, and the fireworks. So I moved to this town 2 years ago. I learned Mass is the most strict state. You cannot do anything. You cannot even like showing the firecrackers on your cell phones. So we should work for that to do that.
Yes, that's something Indians are quite acutely aware of.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's something I was thinking about, like if we can get the permission from the town to celebrate multicultural at a certain given date in the town, that park in the center. I don't know what's the name of the park.
The town commons.
Yeah, the commons. So I was thinking, I mean, can we do some fireworks and collect all the families? The kids are gonna love it, and the winter is almost gone. So, and everyone stay in the car, keeping the social distance, and as long as the kids are happy, then I think everyone's happy.
Mhm.
Agree? Yeah, nice. So, yeah, we don't have to use our fund. We can ask the family donations. So just every family $5. So that's something you could think of. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a bunch of things that have to be done in order for fireworks to be done. It isn't, so you'll have to go to the fire department. There's a whole process that you have to go through the town. It's not, we can't just get together and have fireworks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
That's something.
yeah,
okay.
but it's a great idea though. It's a very
Yeah,
good idea to
it's a
think
good
about
idea.
for the future,
Yes.
perhaps post-pandemic.
Yes.
Right. Madonna, I see your hand.
Isn't it also, it's not only the Chinese New Year, isn't it several other countries' New Year as well, and they each have their own way of celebrating it, but it's on the same date, if I'm correct?
Oh yeah. So there's another name. It's called Asian New Year, Asian New Year or something. So that's celebrate East Asian countries and the Southwest Asia countries. So there's many people celebrates. So yeah, for the family and everything. Yeah.
And one of the comments that Jenny just shared reminded me that it's based on the lunar year. Haining, I remember at our subcommittee meeting, you gave us a little lesson regarding the lunar year. And that's why it doesn't fall the same place in our standard calendar every single year.
Yeah, it's the lunar New Year. And not, I guess it's every year I need to think about who celebrated and who doesn't, because sometimes I forgot to say Happy Lunar New Year to folks that I wanted to. And sometimes I say that to I have a Japanese colleague, and I was saying that, I realized Japanese actually don't celebrate the Lunar New Year. Anyway, it's a fun traditional holiday with very
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Let's see. And in the comments, yes, Rosh Hashanah is a New Year celebration in the Jewish faith, and I believe it usually lands in the fall. Thank you for that comment. A lot of very traditional holidays that are a lot older than the ones that we think of these days follow that lunar cycle, because no one had computers and all that kind of stuff way back when. But the moon was reliable in terms of keeping time. So I guess that's the reason why it was on that cycle. All right, we've gotten to 6:40, so let's get to the 6:40 agenda item, which is review and approval of the minutes. I certainly apologize that the draft minutes weren't circulated until about like an hour and a half before our meeting, but we do the best we can. We're all busy folks, but I think if everyone just had a chance to look at it for a few minutes, we can go through and adopt them and approve them. I did have a couple of edits myself, but anyone else, why don't you chime in first before me? Anyone?
So, yeah, if I may, this is Seema.
Sure.
Yeah, so there
Go
are
ahead,
a
Seema.
couple of, there are a few things that I noticed. I marked them. So do you want me to just like point out one at a time, or how?
Yeah. Exactly. Because
Okay.
this meeting is being recorded, and we can also collect the edits in another form and get them to the secretaries for generating the final form. So why don't you just shout out loud right on the record what the edits are. Sure.
So the first one, this is more of a question for me now on item number 2 in the actual paragraph where it says Scott Harkness. discussed that there is a new application. It goes on the next sentence, and there were discussions offhand, and we won't need to keep
Right.
the position open. I'm not sure what that means.
Right.
I
I
don't know what that
highlighted
sentence
that
means.
as well. Yeah, what it should read, and hopefully it'll be clear. It says, comma, Eric Barber Mingo stated that there were discussions, and strike offhand, and it just says
Yeah.
discussions beforehand, comma,
Correct. Yeah.
and chairs agreed, strike the and, we
Correct.
won't need to keep the position open.
Right. That's
So
what I thought.
that's how the
should be.
sentence should read.
Yeah. And then going on in the same paragraph, it says Eric will follow up with the school committee and the select board. Well, this is a small thing, but select and board, the S and B should be capital. The school committee S and, the S and the C should be capital. To discuss, we don't need the about there, just to discuss the process, not discuss about the process.
Okay, agreed.
Yeah, the objective is to reduce the size of the committee to, and there's a reduce to, there is a duplication there.
Right. Yeah. And I caught that as well. The way I believe the sentence should read is the objective is to reduce the size of the committee,
to 21.
reduce the size of the committee to 21 voting members.
Correct. And so I think we need to add voting members there.
Yes. So yeah, the sentence should read, the objective is to reduce the size of the committee to 21 voting members. And we'll get to that later in the agenda, in today's agenda.
Yeah, so then I don't know, number 3 seems fine. Number 4, Mamta's name is slightly misspelled. It's M-A-M-A-T-H-A. Provide an update, and then the same thing, DEI would provide an update to select board. The select S is capitalized, but the board B is not.
Great. Keep going.
All right, so the next, all right, so Eric stated that the members of the DEI committee should proactively engage in, I don't think we need a the over there, it's just in similar processes.
Okay.
But then it says in the town and community, was it supposed to say in other town committees?
Let's see.
Similar process in the town and communities. I think it should be communities.
But it's talking about the proactively engage in similar processes, as in processes that we are coming from, are like how you participated in the interview and other committees. So I'm not sure if community is what we were talking about over there. I may be wrong.
Right.
This is from my own recollection of the meeting.
You may be right. Other committees should be the word, I think.
That's what I thought it meant, processes in other town committees.
Yes.
Yeah.
Processes in other town committees. Yes, I think that's right.
Yeah, that's what I recollect we talked about.
That sounds right.
Yeah. All right, so Joe Diamond said that we should take the DEI approach to other committees. He is on, I guess, the affordable housing, there's a the missing there, and talked about equity issues. I'm not sure what the next sentence is exactly saying. Our ability to scan the town boards and how we can get our message to the town that way. Should it just say, I'm not quite sure what that means.
Yeah.
If I might, Eric.
Go ahead. Just chime in.
I think that, I think it does actually get to the essence of what I was saying. I think I was suggesting that one thing we might do, one exercise, is that we would scan the town boards to determine
Oh, I see. Okay.
Which ones would be best to bring our message to.
And scan as in, make connections with people who are on the other boards. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Once we've sort of reviewed them, then to make those connections.
Okay.
So I guess, I don't know if we need the words "our ability" over there. I'm not sure. Maybe just like that Joe suggested that we
Yeah, I was
say.
going to say, yeah. Joe, go ahead and call out how you think that second sentence should read so it captures what you were saying most accurately.
Let's see, I would probably say one important activity is to review the town boards and then to review the town boards and to bring to those boards the message of the DEI committee.
Okay.
I guess what I'm dealing with is we wouldn't necessarily bring the message to every single town board and committee, but that it might be a useful exercise to review the town boards and committees, determine which ones, say, at first, we would want to reach out to with our message. Maybe that's the way to go.
Well, that's
Okay.
pretty much what you said, Joe. The ability to scan the town boards and see how we can get our message to them. I mean, we can nitpick how it should be read, but your essence is there, what you mean, right?
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think it does get to what I was saying. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think with the comments that we've put on the record right now, we'll be able to get the wording just right in the final draft because we spelled everything out. All right, let's keep going. Anything else?
Oh, I guess the next paragraph mentioned, I don't know if we need the word "about" there, mentioned social media use in town, I guess. There were controversial posts and I guess the posts were taken down. Yeah, I mean, the rest seems fine. And then going to sentences down.
Yeah, I guess the posts, it should be
Yeah.
the posts were taken down.
Yeah,
Okay.
those are small, minor things.
Yeah. Okay.
Then Eric emphasized, I guess the word "on" is not needed, the importance of involvement. I don't think we need the in various capacity within the town. And
I guess it should be capacities.
yeah.
Okay. Go on.
So Medha, I guess it should just say said that social media may not be the right way, I guess, not ways to discuss inequities, and we can address and host forum for general public to talk about. And this is, I mean, it's the sentence is a little bit off, but it kind of addresses it captures what Medha pretty much said.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we can reform the sentences if you want, but that's up to you guys.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we don't have, as long as it captures the essence.
Yeah,
I mean,
to me it seems
certainly,
like this is pretty much what Medha said.
Okay. So certainly the secretaries, have the discretion to
so
fix
that's
the little
fine.
grammar problems and so
Sure,
forth. So
yeah, that's
as long
totally
as the substance is accurately represented.
Yeah, and then and I think that's yeah, I mean the rest is just I don't think. Oh yeah, Alicia Mallon's name was misspelled in number 6, where it says,
Okay.
the paragraph begins with Anita was able to listen into the DEI school committee meeting. Discuss that if Alicia Mallon, so it's M-A, not M-E.
Okay.
Yeah,
M-A-L-L-O-N.
that's pretty
Okay.
much. And the rest is like small A's, does, and things like that. So we'll just leave it as it is.
Okay. Right. There'll certainly be some proofreading. Anybody else with substantive comments about what's there?
Eric, before we
Yes.
give to Corinne, I think we should remove Eleonora's name in the present. She was not present last meeting.
That's right. Okay. And that does remind me, it is important just to really make sure that we get the attendance record correct for posterity. So thank you. Yes, Corinne.
With that said, as much as I was with you in spirit, I was not there as well. I was apparently
So
half
that'll be
there.
stricken.
Just half my name was there.
All right. Got it.
The other things Seema already got.
And Corinne.
So,
Oh, okay. Okay.
yes, sir. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, how did you figure out to actually raise your hand? Because I guess it depends on an update in Zoom, because it's not showing up for everyone where it usually does.
Oh, I
So I
have
guess
Zoom on
we've
my
all got to
computer.
update our, okay.
So,
Yeah.
If you look at reactions at the bottom of the screen, it's in that now.
Yeah, yeah. At least on my screen, it's actually not there. I see clap, thumbs up, heart, and a couple of other things, but no hands up. But we don't have to spend too much time on that. I'll make sure to update my Zoom, and I'll tell the whole committee, make sure you update your Zoom for next time. Hai Ning, I do see your hand.
Oh,
So
you
Hai
do?
Ning
I
has
didn't
figured
see
it
my
out.
hands. Yeah, sorry. Seema, you're really good. So I want to invite you to our school subcommittees. We do need you to overlook the details.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll be happy to help. You can send me whatever documents you want me to look over.
Thank you.
All right.
Happy to help.
Nice.
I do have an edit to paragraph 7 that I think will help capture what was said. Right before the sentence that says any member, it's right before the last sentence, I would write in, Eric responded that not filling position does not mean persons can't participate, period. And then it would say any member of the public should be open and welcome to attend and contribute to the ideas. I think that was the message that I tried to get out when we were discussing that topic, and which we will discuss further down in today's agenda. And I think that's all that I had. Seema captured pretty much everything that I was looking at earlier in the items, so that's all that I have for edits. Anyone else? Okay. All right, so can I have a motion to, considering all the edits that we just put on the record, can I have a motion to approve the January 27th, 2020 meeting minutes? And it should be 2021, excuse me, approve the January 27th, 2021 meeting minutes as amended in this meeting. Motion for it. So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
And raise your hand. We can raise our hands for approval on the screen. Any objections? Any objections we can call out loud? Hearing no objections, by unanimous vote, the meeting minutes for January 27th of 2021 are approved. Next item on our agenda is our subcommittee updates. And certainly, we've allotted 10 minutes of time for each subcommittee to go ahead and let the full committee know how things have been going with their initial meetings and initial actions. I didn't have any preconceived notions about the order of that. Mamta, if you have any sense on how you'd like to shepherd that through, why don't you go ahead?
We'll start with the school committee because they had the first meeting, I guess, and then we'll go to town policy and then community outreach.
Okay. So do we have our chairs for those committees lined up? This is your time to shine. All right.
Shine or shine?
Shine, emphasis on shine.
So
Derek, are you ready? So we're going to be teaming up to.
I'm starting my stopwatch. You got 10 minutes.
Yep.
10 minutes.
Go.
I didn't see the meeting minutes had that updates. So, but anyhow, I have documentation with me. So to save time, I will just do the menu, share the screen.
Yep,
So
I'm going to stop. Yep, there you go.
Yeah. So, okay. So basically, we had the first 2 meetings to start organize our school subcommittees. So basically, we decided to to list all the related parties to our functionalities. So you can see we have the subcommittees. We are reporting to the DEI headquarters. So we have to interaction with town and school committees, provide the feedbacks from the local communities, also getting the request from the town school committees. And also we are, one of our major connections is with Westford school DEIs, WPS DEIs. They have a very efficient big group composed with many teachers and the school faculties and the 2 students represents in the DI. Their schedule really moving really fast. And then what we're trying to is setting up the parameters not overlapping our Westford public school DIs. We try to listen in their meetings and getting the inspirations from them and trying to setting the parameters of what we could help out. If they help, if they're focusing on the campus, focus on the students, then we are going to go in a different perspective, focus on the families and the local communities. So talking about that, then we need to list our communication channels to reach out our local communities. So MEDA is leading that effort to create a survey to reaching our local communities. And we're trying to be very careful, and MEDA did a really good job to list out the questions. So we're trying to be really careful to because social media is like the last meeting's discussion is kind of sensitive. We try not to be, try to watch out the questions that we're going to come out. We're not looking for negative experiences. We're trying to focusing on how do we positively promote the multicultural environment for all the awareness for all the families, to see if we can collect enough feedbacks based on our subcommittees priorities to combine this together to see if we can move forward for some real activities after all, we're the good communication channels between the local families and to the schools, to the towns, to the school DIs. So we want to be a good role, to be a good communication channels for that. Also, we have the other related parties. That's for the future reference, which means if we can get in contact with local professional organizations to get professional resources to support our work, to tie the families and the kids who need help, who need assistance with the schools, with the towns. Hopefully, the number 8 is the last one. Hopefully, after the pandemic is over or reduced to safe level, and then we're thinking about to organize activities and events throughout the town. Meanwhile, I mean, how do we collaborate not only to the school DIs, but also we would like to collaborate with our other subcommittees like community outreach. So that's another good channels. So that's something we need to discuss in the next meeting. And Derek and MEDA, do we have anything to add? Did I miss anything?
Heining, I have a question.
Go ahead.
You actually answered it, but I wanted to say some of the community outreach events or community activities that your subcommittee is talking about, you should include the community subcommittee in those conversations, because
yes,
it'll be a good interfacing between both the communities, and they can take some of the actions that you people have, and you can do some of the actions. That would be my suggestion now. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's a very good suggestion, and we plan to do that. We utilize any resource we have at hand. Thank you.
Anita has raised her hand.
Anita, I see your hand. Thank you.
I just wanted to kind of to piggyback off of what Mamta said, where the coordination with community outreach, it feels like that's a subcommittee that's going to touch on the other ones as well. And I wonder, and I know maybe this is going to be touched on later in the agenda, but how to coordinate more, because our outreach, I feel like, could be coordinated or should be coordinated, right? So that like one stakeholder is not being reached by two separate subcommittees. And I just don't know if that ends up being like a more regular part of the full committee agenda, just something to consider. But I can see that like a potential silo, you know, thing happening, just trying to prevent that from the start.
Okay, thank you. So that's definitely we need to discuss how to put this one in action. There's a lot of details we need to iron out. How do we collaborate with each other for all the subcommittees? So that's something I propose to be one of the topics in our overall DEI meetings. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further questions for Heining? Okay, good job. So he did that in 7, unless, did I miss a question?
No, I was going to ask if Maida and Derek had anything to add to what Heining said, because I know Heining was asking and I raised the hand to, you know, just interrupt him. So I'm going to ask Maida and Derek if they have anything to share.
I don't have anything to add necessarily, but just in regards to the survey, like I know Omar, for example, like saw the recording and like wanted to give his input on it. So he sent me an email. So if anyone else wants to do that, I don't remember how long we talk about it for, but maybe like 20 minutes or so in there. Yeah, just reach out. And if you want to like give input on the survey at all, you can also just send me an email and I can send you a Word document version of it. And then you can give me comments that we can talk about during open forum during our next subcommittee meeting. So yeah, just reach out if you want to give input. I would love it.
So I have a question for Heining and team. Do you have a cadence set for your meetings going forward? Is it every 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks?
So our plan for the meetings is to synchronize with the main DEI meetings. We set the meetings like 1 week, the Wednesday before our DEI meetings on Wednesday. So 1 week before our DEI meetings.
Derek, you raised your hand.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add that the WPS, I forget if this is mentioned, the WPS DEI team reached out to Heining and I and Ming Chen, as well as Anita, regarding the trying to gather some feedback or kind of helping to kind of support them in a panel that they're doing during the May professional development day for teachers in May. Just because we're trying to kind of the panel, it seemed that the goal was trying to bring in kind of people from the community to kind of talk about different subjects related to kind of what this committee's mission is about, and try to facilitate like productive conversation there.
Thanks, Derek.
Thank you, Derek.
Just further questions to the team, Eric, if I may. Just want to make sure. All right, so Heining, I'm sure you're going to prioritize, the team is going to prioritize on what they want to address first. And you are all keeping track of what actions are going to be taken in each meeting. And we'll talk about funding stuff later. Yeah, and we talked about overlapping topics between subcommittees, so. Okay.
Okay, and that's exactly 10 minutes. Excellent job. All right, who's next, Mamta?
Town and policy. Town policy.
Okay.
Sorry, I told name wrong.
Thank you. So we
Hi, Jenny.
hi, thank you. We have actually met twice now. We had our first meeting on February 2nd and our second meeting on February 16th. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 2nd, and we're basically meeting about 2 times a month. kind of in the off weeks that this full committee is not meeting. That's been working pretty well for us. We will very soon post the agenda for the March 2nd meeting that's coming up. And we convinced Madonna to be our secretary, and she's been doing a fantastic job. So shout out to her for that. Across the 2 meetings, we've been able to talk a lot about kind of what we want to focus in on to start. Policy in general in the town is really wide, and there are so many other boards and committees and departments that we could take a look at. What we ended up gravitating towards were kind of a few main areas. I think it was mentioned earlier that Joe is on the Affordable Housing Committee, and he has already been working with them on a potential partnership, looking at some of the overlap in kind of the vision and the work. When you look at affordable housing and their strong feelings about equity and accessibility for people to afford housing in our town. So that's certainly a partnership that we're looking to maybe make. And we also are looking at, you know, some of the hiring, retention, training, onboarding processes in the town. So, you know, from the HR standpoint, for the positions that are posted, for the hiring process for those, the retention of people within the town offices and what the climate is there. Those are some things that we wanted to take a look at. Nancy has been running around like crazy behind the scenes, connecting with people. And so the HR director, Pam Hicks, has agreed to come into one of our upcoming subcommittee meetings. I don't know which one yet, but to have a conversation with her to better understand those processes. We kind of agreed that the first step is understanding what's in place so we can determine what we might want to recommend. We also want to take a look at the onboarding process for all the boards and committees in town. We talked a little bit about how, you know, for all of us joining this committee, we had to do open meeting law, conflict of interest, and we were imagining that perhaps another part of that specific process is some sort of anti-bias training. So Nancy has also arranged for town clerk Patty Doobie to come to a future meeting to be determined, to take a look at that process and try and to imagine if we can add in that anti-bias to an existing kind of checkpoint. One of the things we did talk about is how if we can layer into existing structures, it's going to be easier to implement. We also have been talking about WPD. Nancy was able to get some documentation from Acting Chief Mark Chambers. He has also agreed to come to a future meeting to be determined. And so we are starting to take a look at some of those materials. A lot of this early information gathering is going to help us form the questions that we want to bring to these individuals when they do come to our meetings. So that we'll be, you know, have kind of that background information to have a really informed discussion and learn as much as we can. In terms of how the work gets done, as we discuss things, we have the benefit of kind of a large subcommittee. So side note, we love you all, but you can't come to our meetings because if you do, we'll accidentally have quorum for the full committee. So we have to avoid that, but feel free to watch the recording afterwards. We figured that out. But what we decided in our meetings is, as we talk about these things and as we figure out what needs to happen and identify these action items, we kind of assign them out. Like I said, there are a lot of us, so someone's able to kind of cover all these different areas. People will volunteer individually or in teams to reach out and gather that information or make those connections with individuals. We are lucky we have a couple very eager and involved townspeople at large who have attended both meetings so far, and they share and contribute. And so very much in the spirit of what you were saying earlier, Eric, we're lucky to have some people on board in that respect. We did briefly talk about the donated funds, and we kind of arrived at a decision that it's really too early to tell what the best use might be for those funds. We would need to get deeper into the work to see kind of what those possibilities might look like. Nancy, did I miss anything? All right.
No, I think you covered it all.
Great. Any questions?
Jenny, thank you so much. I think a lot of good work has happened for this subcommittee. I just want to generally tell the team here that when I say I want to see what action items and what progress is going on, is not for the benefit of me or anything. It's for the benefit of us pursuing our passion to bring in our passion towards DEI in the town. So please don't mistake me when I say I like to see what actions are taken and who's tracking what. Okay, that's my only intent to say. We're all passionate about what we want to do. So we need to keep this moving and not step backwards. Move one step and step back 10 steps is not going to help us go forward. So that's all I want to say. And Nancy, awesome job. Nancy and Jenny, both of you, awesome job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Corinne, I see your hand.
So I have a question. First of all, thank you, because I fully support the anti-bias training, but also in conjunction with that, maybe a sensitivity training, because those are two different topics, in my opinion, when it comes to anybody going on a town committee. I've seen different scenarios happen on town committees, being on a different committee in town in regards to specific group of people that have special needs, and seeing people have biased opinions about them, and committees not taking into the sensitive nature of the conversations that happen. So I do think sensitivity training would be something on top of that needs to happen, or needs to be looked into as well, in my humble opinion, please. But thank you so much for looking into the anti-bias, because I totally support that. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. We will definitely add that in. I appreciate that.
Joseph.
Just have one quick note. I too wanted to thank the chairs, and I wanted to say that I was really encouraged by the reception that I got from the Affordable Housing Committee. You just never know how folks will react. And I think there's a pent-up desire in town to do this work, to do the DEI work. But I think also sometimes people just don't know how to approach it. And so it was really quite encouraging. And I'm hoping that as we reach out to other town boards and committees, that that's the case. And I think we are hearing that too from the schools and from the police department. So.
Hi, Ning.
Oh, hi. Jenny, I was very impressed by our presentation of all the details you're given. So when you are talking about town policies, there's so many people involved, so many committees in the towns. Often I felt a lot of residents in the Westford, they have, they're not that interested in all the details. Second, and they have difficult time to find information quickly from the resources available to them. So one of the ideas we have in the school subcommittee is to, Erica brought that idea, is kind of identify, because we're in this, in the middleman position, so we could collect the information, the channels, information source, to put them together, and then try to present, to give to our local communities. So for the town policies, I'm kind of interested in some certain topics, but it's so hard to navigate around the different committees and to find the information we need. So we always encourage the local families to participate in the town policies, but it's pretty much, I mean, these days, no one has enough patience to go through all the researches. So I'm thinking to, how do we present, collect information together and give like one-on-one sessions or one-on-one brochures to our local families. So for them to get information they need. The more efficient they get information, the more the willingness they're going to participate, asking questions. That's participation.
Yeah, that's a great point, Heining. Thank you for that. And this, I think, is probably a question for the full committee, because I'm wondering if we eventually want to use our website under the town website as a place to disseminate some of the work that we've done or some of the information we've found. You know, because I know a lot of organizations will have a one page on their website that's devoted to DEI stuff, so that if you want to find it, you can find it quickly, like Heining was saying. So I mean, that's kind of a question for everyone, but I think that is a great idea, you know, and like you said, we're running around and pulling all this stuff together. To take the next step and to disseminate that out, I think is a great idea.
I would agree. I think, sorry.
Yeah.
I think that at a certain point, I look forward to us getting our message out. And I think it makes sense, because I think it's inspiring, and I think we would have absolute support. But I think the method is probably something we need to think about. And I you know, Jenny, I think you're right. I think it is a question for the full group.
Mamta, go ahead.
I think it's a good point Jenny brought up, and I want to kind of bring the topic back to the committee here, is that we had talked about using social media in different ways, like how do we share that there is a committee out here in Westford, town of Westford, who is working on all of this and sharing more information. So maybe we put together some options of how we can share all of these information that Jenny and team are collecting, and how we can share that DEI committee and keep it very professional and just for sharing to, you know, everybody. And maybe we look at the logistics of how we turn off the comments so we don't get, you know, comments that could be impacting all of us and things like that. I'm just throwing out the idea there, so that we should think about this. Maybe for our next committee meeting, we should come up with some options saying, is Facebook the best platform? Is Instagram the best platform? Because we have various range of people that we want to address, not just the adults only. Like I could date myself saying I'm a Facebook person, but I also have an Instagram, which I don't. But there are youngsters who go to Instagram or Twitter and things like that. So I think it'll be good for us to do some analysis and options and come back to the committee and say, okay, here's what we have figured out, and here's where we can post most of these things. The challenge we have with the town webpage is very difficult to find some of the articles.
Yes.
You all know.
Yes.
It's difficult to find packets and meeting agendas appropriately. So I think having social media and having it controlled a little bit would really help us.
Okay. Maida, and then I have a point. Actually, Maida, then Anita, and then I wanted to chime in a little as well. Go ahead, Maida.
I just wanted to, so I feel like a few meetings ago, or maybe it was our last like general meeting, we talked about doing like DEI awareness through WestfordCAT in some way. So I wonder if WestfordCAT could be a resource for us to distribute like the information that we're collecting and the resources that we want to distribute to the general public of Westford as well. And we can like even pair those things together. Like if we're spreading awareness about ourselves, we can create a section of whatever WestfordCAT puts out that says, okay, here are like resources that you guys can use that we've collected that we found would be helpful, something like that.
Yep, that's an avenue, Maida. Thank you.
Anita, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a heads up to folks that Jody Ross, the town manager, is actually reviewing a policy on social media and websites and stuff for our boards and town committees. So that will help give us some boundaries of what we are able to post or not, and just to bring some clarity to some of the questions. I feel like that can be kind of squishy, but just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming down the pike.
Yeah, that's going to be a wonderful resource. And following on one thing that Anita just said, and Mamta kind of touched on this too, and that's the word boundaries. And to me, that really means controlling our social media presence so that we're getting a controlled message out, but certainly not falling into the large chasm of the typical back and forth that you get on social media. It's not going to be a platform. I like Mamta's suggestion, for instance, turn the comments off. It really should be one directional. We're getting information out, and anything that people want to debate, come here. I mean, this is our public meeting. Everyone is invited to all of these. Jump on board and let's have a discussion here. The social media page shouldn't be the area where we're actually inviting that. So to whatever options we draw up, we should really focus on certainly all the things that Jody Ross is developing, and with an emphasis on making it one directional. We get our message out and invite people to come into the public forum here to discuss any thoughts that they have about our messaging. Okay, so we have one more committee to go. Who's going to be the star?
Omar, rock, paper, scissors. No?
You
That's
won.
okay. I won. What? So just real quick before I go into detail of what our last meeting was on the 10th. So Lawrence Bentley has stepped down as co-chair due to personal issues and personal reasons, not issues, excuse me. And Omar was unanimously voted in by the subcommittee to step up and be my co-chair. So thank you, Omar, for taking on that role with me. And Lawrence, I hope that you will stick around with us on the subcommittee because your voice and your ideas are very much appreciated and are amazing. So we hope you stick around. We went through so many wonderful ideas in our last meeting on the 10th, and we have a slate of things that everybody is working on. We did go over the social media aspect as well in our meeting to kind of vet through some ideas. Eric and Martha, you were there with us and felt my hesitancy with that. And I look forward to hearing Jody Ross's pipeline review of what's going on, because I have seen, felt, heard, and witnessed a few things in social media very recently and over the few years. And I would like to make sure that we do right by our access and the access we give the public to the information, because we want to be sure that we are getting our information across appropriately and making sure that we stick to our mission statement. With that said, it's a great segue because we thought about creating a mission statement, and that was one thing that one of the things that Jonathan and Omar were talking about with working with Natick United organization. They were going to reach out to Natick United to see if they could ask them a few questions on how they utilize their excuse me, sorry, long day. Long day. Utilize their connections in the community as they have a wonderful mission statement out there currently, and they've had great success in what they want to get accomplished out there. Along with that, we thought maybe we could create our own mission statement here, but that would be with the larger committee for what we want to get across, and maybe we could publicize that either with the social media access or maybe on our page, but that would be something the larger committee could work together to get across. So Jonathan and Omar are drafting a list of questions to speak to the Natick United. Joe Diamond is actually drafting a letter to the editor, and we'll share with the chairs in regards to basically an introduction to the community at large on who we are and our mission in general, what we want to accomplish in the community. And I think that's amazing. I look forward to seeing what Joe is drafting, just to basically introduce ourselves and get the word out there. And hopefully we can share that with a few points in the media. So with the newspapers, hopefully online and online access, we've thought of a few different channels in regards to getting the word out there. And then Patricia was working on reaching out to the senior center to see if we can assist with some needs with them, because one of the community outreach points we were trying to work with was the needs of food within the community, and she works closely with the senior centers, so she's going to report back to us in regards to that, as well as there was a point of contact there that was going to assist them on how they're going to handle their social media outreach as well, so she's going to get some pointers from them as well. Madonna is working on connecting with the Cultural Council, because as Heinen was talking about, trying to do something fun out there with the community in regards to the celebration for the Lunar New Year, we want to make sure that we partner with the members of the councils and community boards that are already currently do things in the community. We thought maybe partnering with them on some of the things they're already working on, to be sure that we're not repeating things, but also making sure that they know that they have partners out there to assist them with what they want to do, and maybe they can help us in some of the things we want to get accomplished in the community as well, obviously pandemic permitting, to be sure that we can work together to help celebrate DEI in Westford. And Mama was going to work with Jody Ross to get more information about the input with the town newsletter, because we'd like to utilize that resource as well to make sure we can get the word out even further about the committee and what we want to get accomplished, and make sure we get the information about any of the activities we want to get going from any of the committees, subcommittees, as well as the big committee, to be sure that we have the whole community reached in regards to making sure that everybody gets to participate in all the activities and the amazing things that we're going to get accomplished. Education, celebration, exciting things. Omar, am I missing anything? Oh, there was one thing I remembered. There was one thing that Omar and I were talking about, and that was in regards to communicating via email, in regards to updates on those wonderful projects that everybody was individually working on the subcommittees, to be sure that we don't violate open meeting law during email. I was speaking to some of the contacts in the other town committees. A suggestion was put forward that we did update emails where we set a standard that no reply would be made to that email. There's specific language, and I'll have to look at it again. I apologize. Omar, do you remember what that language was that I sent you via email? I apologize. It's been a long day.
Not specifically, but it was something like do not discuss, do not reply.
That was it. Do not discuss, do not reply. And it was a status update for the projects. And it was something so that each subcommittee, if they had a project, they could respond to the subcommittee with the update for the project, but no deliberation could happen. So there was no way that there was no way that there could be an open meeting law violation could happen. They just want an update of where they stood for the project to get ready for the meeting. But we want to be sure it was okay. And I see Anita's hand pop up. So I want to be sure we didn't want to start anything, which is why we brought it to this meeting before we started anything, to be sure we didn't violate anything. Okay, go ahead, Anita.
Go ahead, Anita.
It's nothing bad. You're nothing,
okay.
Whatever. I was just, oops, I wanted to lower my hand. I just wanted to point out that Seema and I both sit on the Cultural Council, Madonna. So if it's,
hey.
reach out to one of us, we're here. That's it. Thank you.
That was it.
Thanks, Corinne. Corinne, just to tell you, the task I had taken on is completed.
Yay!
Eric, Meda, and myself did provide some write-ups for the town newsletter. It was published last week or week before. I can get the dates exactly. So we talked about our DEI committee, what's our mission, what do we want to do, and who are the contacts that they can reach out to the co-chairs. So
Wonderful.
we did that. Yeah, we've done that. I just want to ask you, Corinne, I know we just had one meeting, subcommittee meeting. Any thoughts that you and Omar have on how frequently you want to have cadence or for this subcommittee? I know there are challenges, but I just wanted to, if you don't have an answer, you can tell me later, but I just wanted to throw out that question.
No, we haven't discussed that yet. Our next meeting is next Wednesday, so we can always pick that up as one of our topics on our agenda, along with we're going to hopefully have a secretary in our next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Just a heads up, everybody on that subcommittee. But yes, that's something that we'd like to hopefully have, but obviously the best laid plans. That would be nice. We do want to work on that. So not yet.
Okay.
I just had one.
Go ahead, Joe.
One item, just real quick. I actually did reach out to Diane Wood from WestfordCAT, and there are so many opportunities which we can report back to the committee. And that was one of the things I said I'd do.
Yes.
The next thing will be to connect with the director there. And then I can bring back what the options are. And then Corinne, I did email a first draft of a letter to the editor, but maybe it didn't get to you. I will check your email address.
Yes, I will double check that. Sorry. Work has been very hectic, so I apologize.
No, not at all. I just want to make sure it got there.
How does the committee or co-chairs, I should say, before the committee decides, or maybe the committee at large, feel about doing the do not discuss, do not reply, for doing the status updates for the projects for emails? Do we want to adopt that in general?
Yeah, I'm a fan. I'm a fan. You know, anything that gives us a little clarity and make sure that people aren't inadvertently going aside under open meeting law is something that I wholeheartedly embrace.
Corinne,
I see Seema's thumb up, so Seema likes it. Okay. Anyone else?
If I can add, Eric, I think it's a good idea to do so, Corinne. I was just making notes as we were talking through to see how, like Heining brought up the point saying, how do we get other subcommittee people to attend meetings, because we're all swamped. Obviously, we can't attend all the meetings, but if there's a need for an overlapping action or activity that has to happen, how do we do that? And I was just making my notes saying maybe we explore the option of email between subcommittees as well, saying, hey, like Heining's subcommittee said, oh, we need somebody from community outreach to help us here. So instead of, because of the bandwidth and we can't attend all the meetings, they could send an email with the same disclaimer saying, hey, we have a need here. It will be nice if you'd like to attend our next meeting or something like that, so that it's on their agenda and they can make time to attend the next meeting. So something like that, like on the same notes of what you're saying, to get updates on projects, we could use it at a larger scale for between subcommittees as well.
I wonder if that would be one where we could do not reply all, and have the co-chair of that subcommittee send it directly, only so that we don't run into someone not responding to that request.
That's
right. I really do. Yeah, I like the idea of the co-chairs being responsible for doing those communications with that language that Corinne has spelled out. It's always good to funnel things through one or two people, and that's the easiest way to kind of keep control of the communications. Okay. Anything further? Omar, I do see your hand, Omar. Go ahead.
A question for the people here who have been involved for a number of years in the town committees and boards. How complicated it is if the need arise and two subcommittees want to meet together? Is it feasible to call the full meeting, a session of the full meeting, so that if we have the quorum, which is, I guess, the trick, so that we abide to the open meeting law, and at the same time we provide the two meetings, the two subcommittees, to the opportunity to meet?
And Omar, I know your question is I like the idea, and your question was directed to folks who have prior experience with this, but I'm going to chime in anyway, and that's to say, I believe anything under the OML, anything can be done with minimum 48 hours business notice. I mean, if everyone, is kind of thinking, hey, two subcommittees are going to meet, and oh wow, that's a quorum of the whole committee. As long as you are channeling the information to me and Mamta, and we can get an agenda out and get it posted at least 48 hours before that happens, it happens. There's no restriction to the number of meetings, and and certainly we can be organic like that. As long as everyone's paying attention to those quorum and numbers and that minimum 48-hour deadline, so that we can get the word out to the public. Do it. It just has done in an organized way, and everything's possible.
Yeah, and just to clarify why I'm asking, there is some coordination that has to happen, and we have to make sure that we do have a quorum, because otherwise we can't even meet. If we don't have a quorum, the meeting can start, and
right.
And then needs to, and we are calling a meeting that we didn't decide in the previous meeting, so that's why I'm asking.
Right. I've started the habit of taking all kinds of notes with everyone's name on it, when quorum happens and all that. I emphasize that for the co-chairs as well. Get it on a piece of paper. Make sure you have the name of everybody who's in your committee, and make all the marks you need. Quorum, not quorum. Get the names of the other committees. Put it on paper. Put it right in front of you. And until you've gone through that analysis, don't do anything substantive. That's kind of a rule of thumb that I can already see developing. Okay. All right. I think we've gotten through all of our subcommittee presentations. We're only 9 minutes behind schedule, so we're doing all right. Let's get to item 5 on the agenda. Miscellaneous topics. The first bullet point is something hopefully we can take care of fairly quickly. It came up at the last meeting, and I think after thinking about it and talking with a couple of people, including looking back at some communications with Jody Ross, I know how to handle it. Bottom line, we have one DEI committee position that officially remains open because of a resignation that we had last month. And as we discussed at the last meeting, one of the things that we have the benefit of is being a large committee. So I don't think it's necessary, and I think there was general agreement that it isn't necessary that we maintain the exact size that we have now, and that attrition isn't necessarily a bad thing, given that the original concept for this committee was only 9 members, but 22 of us, I believe, submitted such fantastic applications that it was decided by the select board and the school committee, hey, let's have 22. But that's kind of the only magic to that 22 number. And just what I thought made sense would be for us to formally ask the select board to eliminate the position that was left open by the resignation, as opposed to going through a search and addition process every time that there's attrition. And I certainly think we have to put this out to a vote, because it's not only my opinion about this. I want to hear everyone's opinion about it. But my opinion about it simply boils down to This is a large committee. It's a very large committee, and certainly over our, I believe we were all selected for a 2-year span. Over that 2-year span, there's going to be some attrition, and it just probably is more efficient to, keeping our process moving along, to not have to have a search and selection process every time there is something that causes attrition. Fine, we can exist as a 21 member committee. My thought on that was, okay, go ahead and eliminate that position. And a second thought that's related to that is, so that we're not constantly dealing with this problem, is does it make sense to kind of say something like, the DEI committee will have a minimum of either 15 members or 20 members, so that when we do have attrition, every single instance of attrition doesn't require us to have a new application process to fill the position. I think that the committee will function very well, even if over the 2-year period, a few members leave. So I propose to first, not worry about filling that one position, but further on, kind of anticipating this issue going forward with attrition, maybe set a number such as this, we don't have to worry about filling a position until we reach, say, down to 15 or something like that. But throwing that out there, I see a lot of hands up. So go ahead, Madonna. I see your hand first. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that first, it's not our decision, it's the Board of Selectmen's decision, whether the committee.
Right, we would have to exactly make a proposal to the board.
And if we make a proposal to them, we should always keep in mind that we don't want to be able to have an even number. If we have an odd number, it's much easier, so that you don't have something where you're tied if you vote on an issue.
Good point. Good point. Seema, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that it is pretty commonplace for committees to have open positions. So, I'm just wondering whether there is a need to officially reduce us to 21, unless that's being done simply to make it an odd number, like Marana just said, to make life easier going forward. But after you do the 21, I'm not sure if there is any need to keep reducing the number, or I agree with you, either the select board or us, we can in our proposal say something to the effect that we believe that the committee can effectively function as long as there is an X number of people, and that number can be decided by the committee or by the select board. But I'm not sure there is anything wrong with us just having open positions without each time going back to the board to say we want to eliminate it. That's the only point I was trying to make. I'm not sure that's what you were suggesting. I think you were just suggesting that let's make it from 22 to 21, and then
right.
So
That is the first step.
Yeah, so
ahead,
Seema, the point is, if we keep an open positions, we will still get applications for that. And it would be respectful for us as a DEI committee to respond to that. Or the select board may ask us, what do you guys think? Do you want to respond or not? So that will be an ongoing process for us. So if we keep open positions, that will be something that we have to maintain on how do we want to respond to it. And being open to public, you cannot say a no directly. So that will be a challenge.
So I guess that's what I'm having a little bit of a confusion, because, for instance, just to give you an example, the Cultural Council, the Westford Cultural Council, we often have open positions that just remain open because we don't get enough volunteers. So if a person were to apply, we take them on. I'm just trying to understand what is the hesitation. If we have a certain number of positions that has been approved by the select board, which is 22. I completely agree with going to 21 for starters. That's because of Madonna's point that we should be an odd number. That I agree with. But going forward from there, I'm not sure I understand why we need to eliminate positions as people leave, if anybody leaves. We can leave open positions and we can welcome new members into the committee as it is done for other committees. I'm just trying to understand how we are different from any other committee. And I would like, if Anita can chime in if I'm, not understanding this correctly.
I'll just say something quickly on that, and then Nancy and Omar directly after me. So directly to your concern, I believe that to be fair to the public, if we have an open seat, it can't be a process where it's simply an application trickles in and we accept that application and the person is on the board. More to be fair to the public, there has to be publication of the fact that there's an open seat. And I believe an application process similar to the application process that all of us went through in order to be on the committee. So the real question is, do we want to go through that full publication and selection process every time there is an opening, given that we're so big and given that there's no strong need to have to fill the seat. And folks obviously can vote on either side of that, but that's really the issue. It's a process that needs to be initiated every time.
Sure, and I understand your concern, but what I'm trying to say here is that I'll just tell you how I got onto the Cultural Council. It wasn't like I was responding to any kind of a call. I just went onto the website and I was looking for things that I could do in the town, and I filled in a application. I heard from them. So I guess I need a little bit more clarity on what is the formal process. I don't know if there is such a formal process where each time there's an opening, there has to be some kind of advertising. And please correct me if anybody has a different piece of information.
I see several hands up with folks who probably have good answers to those questions. Nancy, why don't you go ahead, and then Anita.
I agree with Seema. First of all, the town manager's office publishes the list of open seats. It's not something we would have to do. Lots of committees have open seats that are never filled. Samantha would send an application if somebody did submit to this committee would call them and ask them to come. Usually if somebody's interested, they come to a lot of meetings and then they would submit an application to be on. I think at this point to say we have enough people we don't want anymore, or it's too cumbersome for us to follow the process, kind of makes us not doing what we want to do and include people that want to be included. I think this is not the time to say we should limit it. At 21, absolutely, but I think we should go with the flow, and the reality that 5 or 6 people over the course of the next 2 years will drop off is absolutely correct, but you'll probably get half of those replaced with other people that are interested, in my opinion.
Anita, you put your hand down. I guess we go to Jonathan.
Can't hear you.
Omar's been up for a while. I'll defer to Omar, then I'll go after Omar.
Okay, go ahead, Omar.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I have to say that Nancy and Seema said most of what I wanted to say, so I'll echo that. And I'll also echo the comment that we had from a fellow resident the other past meeting. And I think it's a good point. We are a committee about inclusion. And I agree that maybe we don't actively search, and also it's not up to us, as Madonna said. But one thing is not to actively search. One thing is to close the door to an application with an open seat without even taking into account that application. That being said, whatever we decide, we can reach out to the fellow citizen and a fellow resident and there are a lot of opportunities to collaborate with the committee, and there is a lot of work that can be done. And actually, there is even more freedom for somebody not on the committee to engage in certain activities than it is for us. Open meeting law, we always talk about the open meeting law. That's one example that comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Jonathan, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in line with everyone else. And I mean, our quorum is based on 22. And if there was some concern that some of the subcommittees are going to reach quorum, at 10 or 11, I think actually reducing the number of people we have will make it harder on our subcommittees if we want to add someone to them. So I actually think it's more prudent right now just to leave it at 22. I did see that application, right, that we did receive. Maybe instead of debating whether or not we should add this person, invite this person to our meetings, just like someone just suggested, and get to know them and welcome them in. I mean, I'd have a hard time saying no to any application, just like what everyone else has said, because I mean, I don't know what makes one person particularly more qualified than another person to be on the DEI. And the more voices, the better. And as far as I can tell, there seems like there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and a lot of hands can help accomplish it. So that's my opinion.
Okay. So it seems to me that we're kind of very strongly leaning towards status quo, meaning we've got the open seat. Anyone who's interested is going to apply, and we'll do the consideration in proper course, and we don't have to do anything formal about changing the size of the committee. Okay. Moving forward, next agenda item is addressing the Spirit Rally face painting at Westford Academy. All that my only input on that is I know that it happens, and I know that there are a lot of strong feelings about it. I'd like to just open it up to everyone to discuss that point or ask questions about it, so that we can get a sense as a committee kind of where we're landing on that. Jenny, I see your hand. And Jonathan, did you have your hand up still, or?
Well, I guess I just had one quick question on the last item. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Are we gonna do anything with that application? Like, are the chairs going to respond to that application? Or are we just letting that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, because our position now is like, hey, yeah, we've got 22, 21 filled, there's 22nd yet to be filled. So yeah, we're going to just proceed with considering any applications that come in, including one that we already have in hand. Absolutely. Go ahead, Jenny.
Thanks, Eric. So in regards to the face painting, a few years ago, I had a conversation with a couple people at WA, one of the deans, another coordinator, about the opportunity to use the topic as an educational moment for the student body to understand what blackface is and to understand how things are interpreted, and that impact is more important than intent in some of these cases. And that never really came to fruition. The last I heard about this, and granted, we haven't had the rally since COVID, right? But the last I heard about kind of the guidelines they were giving to seniors was that they said less than 50% of your face can have black paint on it, which I'm not comfortable with. But I was not part of any of those conversations. So that's the extent that I know from the small administrative moments that I had in relation to those. Maida, you probably have a lot more perspective on it from your perspective.
I saw Seema's hand, and then we'll go Seema and then Maida.
So I'll let Maida talk first, because I want to see what she has to say, and then I'll chime in.
Okay, Maida, then Seema.
She has a much better perspective than any of us, so I want to hear her perspective.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to this. So I think this is, again, like something that when I was in high school, like as a freshman through senior year, I was someone who saw like face paint happening. I was someone who like saw like the tradition of blackface essentially. I was someone who was told like this is something that we've always done. I was someone who very much bought into the idea of like, oh, this is like senior spirit. This is just a tradition from Westford Academy. I was someone who participated in it. You know, like there was throughout my 4 years of high school, it was just something that happened, and there was no education surrounding like, okay, this is something that shouldn't happen, or this is something that could reflect poorly on us as a school, or even this is something that's hurtful to our Black peers. And I think like, honestly, I'm pretty ashamed of myself for participating in it. I'm pretty ashamed of myself for not speaking out against it, but also like, in reflection, I don't think it like even crossed my brain that it was something that could be hurtful or something that was hurtful. It was just something that existed and happened. And I think that's, yes, the responsibility obviously still falls on every individual student. But I think at the same time, as Jenny was saying, like there needs to be some sort of education. There needs to be a teaching moment there, because I guarantee you, the students who are still participating in it probably don't really fully comprehend or understand how hurtful it is. And I think it really took like the movement and increase in dialogue surrounding anti-racist action following George Floyd's murder to bring this issue to the forefront and have my peers say, like, this is something that happened at my high school and it was wrong for me to read those comments and like understand and fully say, wow, yeah, this is something that was happening and it's something that's wrong. It's something that shouldn't happen. I also agree, like, I don't think the solution is to say less than 50% of your face should be covered in Black. I think the solution is to just get rid of the tradition altogether. And part of that solution obviously needs to include education. It needs to include perspectives of alum who have come out of that situation and said, this is something that hurt me. It needs to include perspectives of students of color at Westford Academy who say, this is how this makes me feel. And I also know, like, when I was in high school and there was talk about blackface, on those days when, like, during the Spirit Rally, people would say, oh, like, you know, you don't want to do blackface. And I was like, okay, like, I understand that. But there were no repercussions for anyone who did participate in blackface. Like, there were no repercussions for anyone who painted their full face with black paint. There was no acknowledgement that even if you didn't completely paint your face black, that you still could be hurting someone. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed. Moving forward, obviously, like, it'll probably be sometime before the next rally, I imagine, takes place in person. But I think when it does, it needs to take place with a new tradition. It needs to take place with, like, rainbow face paint or no face paint or some other fun activity, you know? Like, there are ways to show senior spirit rally without painting your face black. Like, it just doesn't need to be something that's hurtful to communities of color. That's all I got to say on that.
Thanks,
Okay.
Megan.
Okay,
Before we jump to Seema, sorry, Eric. The reason I put this on the agenda topic was to make sure that we as a DEI committee have an opportunity, like Jenny had started it, what she had provided, take that as a baseline and put it on our agenda when school committee talks to the school team next time, the DEI team next time, have this as a topic of interest. And so, as Medha said, the next Spirit Rally, when it happens in person this fall, that we have some kind of a solution that is a win-win, and that will help the students, not only the seniors of next, but also the alumni to see
Mhm.
what they felt is now changed and give a little bit of happiness. So that was the intent of bringing it back to this meeting so that it can be taken as an action by the subcommittee.
Go ahead, Seema.
Okay,
And
so
then Nancy.
we're past time, so I'm going to be really quick. Maybe I have a quick question for you before I say anything. So maybe this is wrong, but it is my understanding that the black and white or whatever, is that something to do with the colors of the senior year?
Okay, so so Westford Academy's colors are maroon and silver.
Yeah.
Senior year, for a reason that doesn't need to be a reason anymore, you get like special shirts that are black and silver. And so the idea is you paint your face black and silver. However, I don't think that needs to be the case at all.
Yes, and that's
like
what, yeah, that was
So
my
this year, sorry to jump in. Sorry to jump in, but this year I did have a conversation with one of the deans about the color of the senior shirts, and I urged that dean to not make them black for a variety of reasons, and I don't know what the result was.
Yes,
So,
and that exactly was, I was going to make a more practical suggestion about it. I completely agree with everything Jenny and Meera said. This has to be definitely a learning and educational piece has to be there to it, and absolutely no reason why it needs to continue just because it has existed in the past. I have never found that to be a valid reason for anything. But the practical aspect of it is that if it is associated in any way to a color that has been somehow traditionally been assigned to the senior year, the easy fix, and I'm not saying to take away from the educational piece of this, but the easiest thing practically would be to just change that color. So when the face painting happens, there is no question of any black being used at all. So that would be the practical aspect of it. But I also agree that just simply changing the color and not addressing why this is being done is not something I would be comfortable with. I would like it to be addressed.
So Seema, the conversation that happened with the shirt colors, just to give you a little bit more of that context, was traditionally the different grades are pitted against one another in these like gladiator style games. Sure. And I had a conversation a few years ago with the senior class advisors at the time about rethinking to be in more support of kind of like community building instead of pitting kids against one another, because there were also concerns about hazing freshmen. And so traditionally each grade wore a different color, and then that they were positioned on a field on four sides of a square, just pitted against one another with all these things. So so they started to make some changes that year. You could still do some of those games, but there was other stuff. To put my money where my mouth was, I volunteered to sit in a dunk tank, and it ended up being in the 30s that day. So Jim Mantinelli, in the kindness of his heart, bought me a wetsuit. And then he came and was sure to dunk me, but so I will say the conversation has been started. I think there's some seeds there. I think it needs to be encouraged from a lot of different angles, from a lot of different groups, that how can we imagine embracing the school colors, and how can we imagine not pitting the grades against one another, and giving a lot of options for how, like, what is the point, what is the vision of this rally, and are we building school spirit by pitting against one another or by coming together? So sorry to go on a rant.
No, that's okay. That's completely fine, and that was my point. My main point was just that I don't see the reason to stick on to black if it is a color associated with the grade. So I just don't see the point of that. That's it for me. Thank you.
Okay, very quickly, Nancy, go ahead.
And very quickly, as an alum of Westford Academy, Spirit Week was never paint your face black. Spirit Week was the classes against each other, but it was who can bring in the most pennies, or who can bring in the most cans of soup, or it was fun, dumb things that was not painting your face. There weren't different color shirts. They were maroon and gray, and you were proud of being a gray ghost. And we didn't have the ghost that's there today. We had Casper the Friendly Ghost, and it was not a challenge against each other that was fierce on the field, and there was no face painting, and it was a great spirit week. So, you know, it did happen after my kids, so after 96-ish and up until today, but it was never paint your face black. We didn't paint our faces, so, and neither did my kids.
Thank you. That's a very important perspective. Go ahead, Anita, and then Maida, and then we'll have to push ahead through the end of the agenda. So Anita, really quickly, thank you.
Sure. I was just wondering if we should try and figure out how to like formalize something. So if it's writing a letter, and I think Corinne wrote in the chat, does the school committee know about this? I believe they do,
yes.
But I wonder if there's if it's a formal letter from the DEI committee, if we're kind of asking the DEI's like education subcommittee to kind of take this on to push it forward, just trying to figure out how to like move it forward, you know, put some action to it.
I love writing letters, and I think this letter needs to be written. So I'm volunteering. Who wants to help me do that?
I'll be happy to help you do that. And I see Maida's hand is up too.
I would love to help.
Okay. So yes, I'll be the point person, and anyone with ideas on the content of this letter, certainly shoot me emails about that. Do we have any sense whether the school committee has it on their agenda coming up soon? Because the idea of the letter might be get on the school committee agenda and make sure that this topic is thoroughly vetted through them as well. Anyone have a sense?
Sorry, just an interruption. Could you share the letter with us when you're sending out? Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to be as democratic and open as possible about the content of it. And I certainly won't fire it off before the whole committee is comfortable with it. But definitely, I'll be the point person on that to make sure it gets done. Maida.
I just have a quick question. So, Anita, this is, I don't know what the process is for this, but is this something that we should be approaching school committee with, or should we be approaching the building principal with?
Yeah, Principal Antonelli.
You know, I think poor Ming Chen's not here today, but I feel like we should have maybe tapped into him a little bit too to get his opinion on what the best channel is. But I don't think a formal letter would hurt, because I feel like having that documentation is really powerful. So maybe we can see it, like, you know, I know that it's budget season right now too, so they have a lot going on. But trying to figure out when this is a good time to add it to the agenda, I feel like that might be a reasonable ask.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking whether it's more appropriate for the committee to first approach the principal, you know, kind of like going through stages kind of stuff, especially because the school committee is so taken up with budget right now. So I don't know, but I agree. It's fine. The letter needs to be written. That's the important part.
Okay, Maida, we'll finish this topic with you.
Okay.
Just in the interest of time.
Yeah, okay. I think the letter is wonderful. I also think, as people have been saying, I think it would be really productive to have conversations with Principal Antonelli and like administrative staff at Westford Academy about this. If like a few members of this committee want to meet with like a few members of them, if we can convince a few of them to have a discussion via Zoom about this, you know, in the coming weeks, I think that would be really productive. We have like kind of, I guess, a clear deadline for this, which is next fall, right? Whether or not it will actually take place in person next fall or not, we're not sure. But next fall, like there is the possibility of a spirit rally in person. And before then, this needs to be fixed. So if we have conversations, you know, throughout the coming months, throughout the spring and summer, I think that could be really productive, and we need to work with them to find a solution that includes all the things people have been saying, as Jenny mentioned, education about the topic for students, as a bunch of people have said, different ways to do like community building activities rather than pitting grades against each other, and obviously, thirdly, and most importantly, the elimination of blackface.
Okay. Heining, if you can keep it to 10 seconds, you go.
Okay, so basically what I want to say is for the DEI, is a communication channel between the local communities to the town and the schools. I recommend also propose when we before we compose the content, let's each one of us talk to at least like 5 or 6 families to see how generally idea how people feels, not just our 21 people feels, but also talking to the actual families in the communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, that's an excellent excellent idea as well. And certainly I would love it if everyone is having those conversations and giving the feedback directly to me, so that as I'm thinking about what should go in and what our position should be in this letter, we'll get the type of information that Jaime just mentioned. It's very important that you know, we as a committee feel like we're actually representing everyone in the town in the way we craft our position. So, okay. That was an awesome topic, and I'm glad we were able to get some constructive work done on that. Very quickly, just a couple of minutes on item number 6. I think is just very quick and informative. Mamta, do you want to take a shot at boiling that very long email that we got down to its essence?
Sure. So one of the challenges that the WestfordCAT is facing is obviously they're understaffed. And since we have 3 subcommittees and the DEI committee being recorded, it gets challenging for them to have that record. Right now, being virtual, it's helpful, but once we go in person, there may be challenges for them if there's overlapping other meetings, and they have predominantly 3 standing meetings that they have to record for the town. So said that, I was proposing, I was sharing with Eric, and I was proposing that every subcommittee, as they record the meeting in the GoToMeetings, as they record those meetings, can share the meetings with the WestfordCAT, Steve and Nick, so that if they want to post it, they can find a way to post it. That's one option. And second, also invite, not an option, please send your agenda items to Steve and Nick as well. So if they have time, they can join in, because it becomes cumbersome for them for, you know, recording all of these things. So, and the second thing is, if you are recording your meeting, we need somebody to volunteer to make sure that this reaches out to them. So that's just a proposal I wanted to say. And obviously the DEI committee, since we do a Zoom, it's automatically recorded. The days that Steve and Nick cannot come to record these meetings, we can always share this recording with them. But if they are available, I think Steve is there today, he's recording. But if they are not available, those are the options that we were thinking of, because it's getting really challenging for them to get some of these meetings recorded. And Steve, if you want to chime in here, feel free. I don't know if he's still there.
I see his window, but he might have had to step away.
Okay.
But yeah, and the general point being, I think all the electronic platforms that we use allow for recording. So I think just as a matter of process and making sure, you know, we have more and more opportunities to make sure what we're saying is getting out to the public. All the subcommittees, make sure bottom line is make sure you got that recording button turned on, because we already have the practice of announcing to the public, hey, we're recording. And I will certainly give the contact information to the folks at WestfordCAT that Mamta and I have received. Send, you know, subcommittee chairs, you know, get that recording, send it to CAT. And you know, we'll make sure that we send all of our recordings to CAT. And when we have a finalized agenda, you know, I can certainly promote the practice of, in addition to me sending it to the town to be posted, make sure that WestfordCAT has a copy as well. And Jenny, thank you. Yes, also there's an ability within, I think, all the software that we use to capture the information that is stated in chats, so that the chat as well will go along with the video recording, so that information is accessible to the public. So as long as we as an entire committee and the subcommittees keep in mind, hey, these recordings are precious jewels. Let's get them out there. Let's make sure CAT has a copy of them. Hey, if the local newspaper wants a copy of the recording, you don't have to debate that. This is a public meeting. Everything that we've already said is public. So shoot that recording to any reporter who wants to know about us, because it's already public. You don't have to worry about whether there's any confidentiality issues or stuff like that. So our practice should always be to get it out there. Seema, I see your hand.
Yes, I just wanted to say that since I'm already taking care of the minutes and sending them out, I'm happy to do this. If you guys want to send your links to me, I'm happy to coordinate WestfordCAT so that it's just one person who is sending, and there is just for ease of all the information staying in one place.
Excellent.
So all the three
thank you.
can feel free to send the recording links to me. And Mamta, if you could share the email address of the two people that you just mentioned, I'll be happy to forward them. I do have one quick question though. Is WestfordCAT the only way we can share this information with the public, or just like we have a tab on our website that takes the public to our minutes or our agendas? Can we have a link there that says recording of our meetings? I'm just curious.
My understanding of the software, it always allows kind of like a link that can be put in a PDF. So for instance, when we, one way to make sure that the public could find it on the Westford website is when we generate our minutes, we can have a line that says, and the recording of this meeting can be found at this link. Okay. And then anyone who downloads our minutes, for instance, would be able to see that. That's one way. But there's probably a whole lot of
be the people that have the repository. The repository will not be with the town. Is that correct? That means they are the ones who store all of it, and we can send links to their website, to our website. But we, as the town of Westford, doesn't have a facility where they can then store those links for people to or they can store the actual recordings.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that there's a spot already designated like on the Westford website, but that certainly could be created. So as of right now, yes, WestfordCAT, those two gentlemen who have contacted us.
Time came into the discussion. I was just wondering if there is a way to bypass that. I don't know. I'm just
sorry for interrupting, Seema. So I think you bring up a good idea. Maybe this is something small. We should be able to do it. We publish to the public that how do you access our meetings. That's something put on paper. Just to put on paper, and then we can figure out the communication channel later on to our local community. Just to say, hey, this is the way to find, because right now I couldn't find my own meetings.
Right, and it's also very easy within like the agenda that we publish. We can also put right in the agenda, here's the link for the last meeting, because in every agenda, it's like we're going to review the last meeting because we're looking at the minutes. We could also say, hey, here's the recording of our last meeting, and that'll be right there in the agenda. That'll be another way for the public to have very easy access. Okay.
Sorry, just one more thing for Anita. Anita, so you mentioned earlier we have probably have new social media guidelines. So if you have an update, could you forward it to us? So that would be really helpful for our coming and from our next meeting. Thank you.
It's not final yet, but it'll go out to all boards and committees across the town for sure.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. And Madonna, last hand, and then I'll strongly urge a motion to select our next meeting time and adjourn. But go ahead, Madonna.
We can't hear you, Madonna.
Madonna, you're still on mute.
I was hoping, because I know Anita's brought it up several times, that there are several people who are, the different committees are trying to make contact to certain people within the community and to other committees in town. And I know that Joe has been a liaison from a couple of our committees to the Housing Authority. But when I said I would make contact with the Cultural Council, I hoped that at some point we would discuss how we can make it so that somebody from the main committee is responsible to actually either be the person for a particular unit. So then any questions that another committee has can go back to that person. I think that would make life a lot easier for all of us if we knew that there was somebody designated for each of the committees that we bring up. Is that possible to do?
So Madonna,
Absolutely, that's possible. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Mamta.
So Madonna, you actually brought the right topic here. So I was thinking of the same thing when I said that we would do email communication between committees, because attending each subcommittee meeting would be a challenge for everyone. But having a point person to do that on each subcommittee, to reach out to, say, for example, town policy. I'm just saying as an example. I'm not saying I'm volunteering Nancy or Jenny here. So Jenny or Nancy steps up and say, I'm going to be the liaison between school committee and community outreach committee. I will make sure that if they have anything, I can address to them. Likewise, if we have anything, we can send it to them. So we identify on the other two committees who's going to be a representative. So I think it makes good sense of that, so that there's one person to contact and not everyone bogged down by it. Totally agree.
And Madonna, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think your idea was also broader, meaning you're hoping that we have a structure that there's going to be someone on this committee who's going to attend the finance committee meeting, and there's someone on this committee who's volunteers. I'll be the person to check in on this other town committee and make sure to report back, and so that other town committee has a person from DEI who they can say, hey, I want you to raise this issue at the next DEI meeting, and that person can come back. So essentially a liaison that's going to be in several committees throughout the town.
My thought
is that kind of your idea?
I had been thinking about this for a long time. And I think that if we have one person it has to come from the main committee first. It has to be somebody on that, on the main committee who takes a responsibility for, say, the meeting with the DEI education committee. And then when it's the education group that's working with them, they have somebody in particular at this committee meeting that they will, or they would be the representative from this committee, that if any of the other committees have somebody that they need to talk to, they could talk to this person, and that person takes it then to the committee in general and to their subcommittee as well. And I think that way we all know that there's one person on the main committee who we can contact. Now, for example, like I said, Joe Diamond was on for the affordable housing. And I think now that it's probably he's the liaison for everybody to the affordable housing. And so I think that if somebody would do that for all of the committees, that would be really, really helpful. And I think that, but we have to have that main person on the main committee, and then all of the other committees can funnel into that main person, because you never know when something's going to come up in one of the subcommittees that has something to do with one of the other subcommittees or one of the main committees. And so it's important that it be from the main committee, that there's somebody who's absolutely the person who gathers it all from all of them and is the point person for the responses beyond that.
Okay.
Understood. Thank you. All right, let's push through, folks, so that we can adjourn. We're rapidly losing folks who have other commitments. I think for our next meeting, and I sincerely apologize, I forgot we agreed that we'd be starting at 7 o'clock as a general principle. So last Wednesday of the month, last Wednesday of March at 7 p.m. So what's that actually on the calendar? That would be
31st.
So do we want to do the 24th or do 24th or 31st? I guess that's our only decision point.
I think 24th would be better.
Okay. So March 24th, 7 p.m. and we'll make sure that we get the start time right. Okay.
I have just a very quick question for Heining or anybody on the school and education subcommittee. So it is my understanding that you've had 2 meetings, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if you could send the minutes of your first meeting that must have been approved in your second meeting over to me. I will make sure it is uploaded on, I'll send it to the town clerk for upload. Just a quick reminder.
Okay, thank you. The first meeting minutes, minutes taker has a malfunction. So we are going to approve the first meeting, second meeting's minutes in the third meeting, both of them in the third meeting. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, sure, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine. Okay, so we have our next meeting scheduled. Motion to adjourn, anyone? Second? All right, it is 8:26 p.m. Oh, actually, everyone say aye.
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 We're all in agreement. Thank you, everyone. 8:26 p.m. We are adjourned. Have a good night.
Have a
Thank
good night.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank
All
you.
right.